John Adams was an attorney, writer, and founding father who served as the first vice president under George Washington. He was elected as the second president of the United States. John Adams was born on his family farm October 30th, 1735 in Massachusetts. His mother belonged to a leading medical family, and his father was a farmer and shoemaker who also served as an official in local government. Adams held his father in high regard and often spoke of their intimate relationship. As the oldest sibling, he was obligated to pursue formal education. Adams routinely skipped school. He disliked his teachers and insisted that he wanted to leave school, become a farmer, and run the farm. His father spent a season waking John up early and having him do all of the exhausting tasks of running the farm. After John experienced the difficult life of a farmer, his dad insisted he go to school. He simply expressed, "You shall comply with my desires." At the age of 16 years old, Adams entered Harvard College. By this point, he had become an excellent student. His father's desire was for him to become a minister, but Adams had an appetite for fame and prominence. He wanted to become a great man. He wrote his father explaining his aspirations to become a lawyer. He claimed that he found lawyers to be some of the most noble men, while he often found men who pursued the clergy to be absolute dunces. After he graduated, he studied law with an attorney in Massachusetts. Adams began his law career in 1758 and eventually became one of Boston's most prominent attorneys. In 1759, he met 15-year-old Abigail Smith, his third cousin. Their shared love of books, her high intelligence, and their complementary personalities helped them to connect. They were married in 1764 in direct defiance of her mother. John and Abigail lived on the family farm, which John Adams had inherited after his father's recent death. John and Abigail had 6 children. She remained a trusted confidant of her husband, and she corresponded regularly with Adams, especially when he was away in Europe for long periods of time. Their letters to each other show her to be a sober-minded thinker and a significant voice in her husband's career. During the 1760s, Adams began challenging Great Britain's authority. British Parliament, without consulting American legislatures, passed acts which heaped heavy taxes and tariffs on legal documents, newspapers, playing cards, paper, glass, and tea, all to pay for the cost of Britain's war with France. As Adams led widespread opposition to the British, his fame grew. Although he had animosity for the government in England, he was also a principled man who believed he could make a positive impact in the field of law. He represented British soldiers who were accused of committing murder during the Boston Massacre. He felt it was crucial that they received a fair trial. In 1774, John Adams joined the First Continental Congress and was placed on a committee which drafted the 27 grievances to King George III. John Adams chose 5 men: Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Robert Livingston, Roger Sherman, and himself to draft the Constitution. And although the first draft was written by Jefferson, Adams was mostly responsible for its final form. There was strong opposition to accepting the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson, a poor debater, remained silent while Adams argued for its adoption before Congress. Jefferson said that Adams was the pillar of the Declaration's support on the floor of Congress. On July 3rd, Adams wrote his wife that yesterday was decided the greatest question which was ever debated in America, and greater perhaps never was nor will be again decided among men. The second day of July 1776 will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. George Washington was elected the first president of the United States by an overwhelming margin. John Adams came in second and thus became the vice president. After serving 8 years, George Washington decided not to run for a third term. It was an ugly campaign season which included newspaper attacks, pamphlets, and political rallies. Alexander Hamilton made a failed attempt at manipulating the vote against John Adams in favor of Thomas Jefferson. Adams won the presidency by a narrow margin, and Jefferson, who became vice president, came in second. Adams wrote shortly after the election that Hamilton was a proud-spirited, conceited, aspiring mortal, always pretending to morality. Adams referred to Hamilton's womanizing and called him that Creole bastard. Hamilton, who regularly was consulted by Washington, sent the newly inaugurated Adams a detailed letter filled with policy suggestions for the new administration. Adams ignored him. John Adams' presidency was riddled with foreign affairs issues. Britain and France were at war, which hurt American trade. Adams sent a delegation to France to negotiate a treaty, but the French refused to meet with the delegates, and instead demanded a large bribe. Adams refused to deal with the French and made public the bribery scandal. This boosted his popularity immensely. An undeclared naval war broke out between the U.S. and France in 1798 and lasted until 1800, when a peace treaty was signed. Adams' popularity dropped when he signed acts that gave the government broad powers to arrest anyone who strongly disagreed with the government. Jefferson declared this act unconstitutional. Many Americans, having recently shed the oppression of King George III, feared that their new government might resort to similar tactics. This cost Adams. He was the first one-term president, and Jefferson won the presidency over him in 1800. After his presidency, Adams lived in Massachusetts. He spent the next quarter century writing columns, books, and letters. He was fortunate enough to witness his son, John Quincy Adams, become president. In 1812, he was encouraged to begin exchanging letters with his old rival, Thomas Jefferson. He did, and their frequent letter writing lasted the rest of their lives. On July 4th, 1826, on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, John Adams spoke the words, "Thomas Jefferson still survives," and he took his last breath. Thomas Jefferson died the same day. Please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. It's so nice when you share. Thanks for visiting. Classically, Dad.